Welcome back, teacher candidates and cooperating teachers. In Module 2, you will learn two different co-teaching strategies. The first is called One Teach, One Observe. The second is called One Teach, One Assist. When using the strategy One Teach, One Observe, one teacher has primary instructional responsibility, while the other gathers specific observational information on students or the instructing teacher. Prior to using the strategy One Teach, One Observe, co-plan the lesson and decide on an observational goal. In other words, while one teacher is teaching, what should the observing teacher be looking for? This may be one goal, or you could select a couple. Below are 5 suggestions, but by all means you can stick with any observational goal that works for your situation. So one suggestion is, when do students seem most engaged? What percentage of the time are students engaged? What types of questions are asked? That could be what types of questions are the students asking, or what types of question is the instructing teacher asking. How are students encouraged to be responsible? And are the same or different students called on? The observing teacher should take careful notes so that when you have a chance you can share those observations with the teacher who is instructing. Please take a few minutes to watch this short video on One Teach, One Observe.
Decision-making in classrooms should be based on data. In this strategy, One Teach, One Observe, one teacher acts as the primary teacher, while the other gathers specific observational information on student learning. In this presentation, the resident is the primary teacher and the mentor is the observer. But these roles can be switched depending on the topic or interests of the teachers.
The purpose of the One Teach, One Observe strategy is basically to gather information or data on a student or particular students while teaching to find the best practices the teacher needs to use to make sure that the student is engaged in understanding or learning. We collect data through their behaviors, how often they're on topic, how often they're not on topic.
This strategy allows teachers to better understand differences in student learning through careful observation of student behaviors or the learning environment. This strategy can also be used when one of the co-teachers is needing to gain specific information about their own teaching style or methods.
He'll do it one day and then I'll do it one day here and there just to see if he's struggling with a student more so than I'm struggling with a student, or if I'm struggling with a student more so than he's struggling with a student. Find different strategies or different ways that we have the student engage in our teaching strategies.
Some examples of possible data to collect would be a student's academic performance during a given lesson, or their behavioral and social skills while in the classroom.
We'll use ABC data, which is basically antecedents, behaviors and consequences within the student, and how he is behaving towards another student. Also, the collecting data guides us into a better way to actually set the students in pairs or in groups, and it keeps them more on task and more off task depending on what student we pair them with. So the data collecting is actually quite amazing. It works very well for us.
What I did was I was observing my focus student and also another student who's an average student just to get a comparison. And it was mostly on-task behavior that I was looking at. The specific student has a tendency to find distractions, and so I wanted to record how much on-task behavior there was so that I could report that to the team when we evaluate what we need to do to make that child successful.
The observer role can be switched between the two teachers in the co-taught classroom, depending on the purpose for the observation. This strategy is only meant to be used occasionally.
We want students to feel that it is an equal role, that we are both the teachers and not one more dominant than the other. And it's kind of nice to get a different perspective when you switch the observer role.
The second strategy shown in this module is One Teach, One Assist. In One Teach, One Assist, one teacher has primary instructional responsibility, while the other assists students with their work, monitors behavior, or corrects assignments. During One Teach, One Assist, as one teacher is presenting information, the other can be monitoring the room. This teacher may be checking that students are paying attention, using proximity to students who are not on task. The wandering teacher shows students they are being held accountable for taking notes, paying attention, etc. And the wandering teacher gains information about students that can later be shared with the presenting teacher. This module, Module 1, will go over the goals of the co-teaching presentation. It will give definitions of co-teaching and its terms. After that, it will discuss what research says about co-teaching. The first module concludes with Bethel's expectations for student teaching. Module 2 covers 2 co-teaching strategies, One Teach, One Observe, and One Teach, One Assist. As you work through the co-teaching modules, we hope you will be able to understand the purposes, definitions, and uses of the co-teaching strategies. Understand that the research shows co-teaching has more favorable outcomes than the traditional model. And we hope you will be able to describe the expectations of the teacher candidates, the cooperating teachers, and the supervisors during the student teaching experience. In a traditional student teaching placement, teacher candidates are often left to sink or swim. Many times the teacher candidate spends the first part of the placement passively observing, and then he or she begins taking over the teaching role over time. In co-teaching, we think of both adults as teachers in the room from day one. The teacher candidate should have his or her own teacher space or desk for materials and belongings. The teacher candidate should be introduced as another teacher in our classroom. From the first day, the teacher candidate should be an active participant. In the co-teaching model, time each day is set aside to co-lesson plan. This means sitting down together in delineating what content should be taught and how it should be taught. Though teacher candidates have written lesson plans in college, for many this is the first time they're developing multiple lesson plans for students with widely varying needs. Co-planning really allows the cooperating teachers to share their expertise in planning instruction. There are so many reasons to co-teach, but here are a few of our favorites. The first and most obvious is co-teaching reduces that student-to-teacher ratio. And with a more favorable ratio, you have an enhanced ability to meet student needs in a large and diverse classroom. Co-teaching also allows the teacher candidate to have more time to experience the expertise of the cooperating teacher. No, you gotta write it down, Abby. There are so many reasons to co-teach, but here are a few of our favorites. The first and most obvious is it reduces that student-to-teacher ratio. And with a more favorable research, Abby. Now please watch this short video clip on One Teach, One Assist.
In this strategy, One Teach, One Assist, one teacher acts as the primary teacher while the other assists and supports the learners. In this demonstration, the primary teacher is a mentor, and the assists position of the lesson is carried out by a resident teacher. These two roles can be switched depending on the strengths of each teacher and the content being taught. The co-teacher assists by monitoring student work, addressing behavior issues, answering student questions, distributing materials, or asking the lead teacher to clarify any developing student misconceptions.
If you have a class where you know that it's more of a behavior issue, it's really getting the students to be on task. And if you have a class where it's like the kids are more engaged and into it, then it's really asking them those, higher level questions to make them think more, or if they're pair sharing, encouraging them to pair share.
This strategy is helpful when distributing materials during hands-on lessons or when closely monitoring student learning during lessons, and is meant to be used occasionally.
In this lesson, what I noticed that I was using a lot of was proximity with the students in monitoring their behaviors. Also making sure that the students were at the same part of the worksheet, on task, and doing the same work as everybody else, as well as checking for some understanding, making sure that some of the students understood.
The benefits of having her in that role is that I'm able to kind of just relax and teach and, you know, just really kind of get into the moment of creating that experience for the students and not have to worry about all the little things that has to be supported. You know, I just know that there's somebody else in the classroom that's there for me while I'm teaching, and then when that person's teaching, I can be there for them too. So it's just nice having two people teach one lesson. When we plan our lessons, I guess we take a look at what the lesson is and then decide really who's teaching that specific lesson, and then automatically the other person would go into the one assist role if that's what we decided to do. She may take more of a lead in history than I know I would be assisting her, whereas, you know, science is more my thing sometimes, so she really would assist me in science. We are co-teachers, and when you set up your room, you know, you want to make sure that all of that is equal so the students really understand that it is.
The form titled Co-Teaching Assessment will ask you to answer the following questions. First, when using the strategy One Teach, One Observe, what are 3 things the observing teacher could watch for and take notes on? And second, think about the lessons that will be taught during the first week of school. Briefly describe a lesson in which the strategy One Teach, One Assist would be useful.